All right, what's happening, guys? In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build skills with inside Claude and some of the skills that actually make sense for the business. So keep this in mind, right? There are multiple models for Claude, and most of the time people are building an Opus, and you really don't need to build an Opus. There's no need to do that. So let's take a workflow that potentially makes sense for business, and let's build what that actual flow is. So let's use the marketing example that we used in the previous video, and let's say that we're trying to do a sales automation. Okay, so you'd say I run a marketing company that helps med spas grow their business, and we run paid traffic. Right, this is always how you start the prompt. I gotta be a little bit careful on this because I don't want this is not what I actually do, so I don't want this to be stored, but we'll do it anyways. I run a marketing company that helps med spas grow their business. We run paid traffic. And then what you're going to do is you're going to say something to the effect of, I am using Go High Level, right? Go High Level is a pretty common software tool. If you're watching this video, you don't know what this is, you should probably go check this out. But Go High Level to do the landing pages and marketing automation. The offer is let's say a $2,500 monthly retainer with a 3-month minimum. So here's what we've done, right? We say this is what we do, this is the tool that we're using, and then we say here's what the offer is. The reason I like to do this, I can't spell obviously, but the reason that um, is you got to kind of set the framework here, and you got to set the framework so that you know what you're actually going to output content wise, right? So the next move is here is you say, please tell me the types of workflows you think make sense in GHL. So this is like prompt engineering the prompt engineer, right? So you're basically asking it to tell you what prompts to give it so that you can figure out what you need in the business. So instead of you saying, I need X or I need Y, you ask it what you're going to need. So let's run this prompt here first and let's see what happens, right? So I run a marketing company. I'm using Go High Level. They offers $2,500 monthly. Tell me the types of workflows that make sense. So the very first one is it's going to tell us is that we need a lead capture and a speed to lead, right? So anytime somebody fills out a form, this probably comes from Facebook or whatever, you need to fire an SMS and email and notify, the client, in this case, the med spa, that needs to happen because speed to lead is a big deal, right? Then it's saying we need an appointment nurture, right? So that's going to be a calendar link, triggers it, allows people to confirm. Then you're going to have a no-show or cancellation, right? So someone no-shows or they cancel, right? A no-shows, they just don't show up to the appointment. The cancels, they before the appointment have told you they don't want to come in. And then you have this lead nurture for unconverted leads, which kind of comes back to this lead capture up top, right? Because if they don't become a booked appointment, they go through the nurture sequence. Then it's saying we should build this pipeline stage automation, which takes people through the sales process. And then after they become a client and they have a visit, we want a referral process. Then we want a reactivation campaign. This is for people who are clients that, don't necessarily haven't came back in. And then we got internal alerts, right? So what I'm going to say is, can you please build me a flow chart of these general flows? Don't include the copy yet. So the reason you want a flow chart is you want to be able to kind of visualize how this stuff works, right? Because at the end of the day, having the visual component is probably pretty helpful. The one thing that you got to keep in mind, though, is that most of the time, this is going to spit out kind of a format that maybe you're not used to, and that's okay. But this is just a good place to start, right? So it's kind of saying here, the paid ads get submitted, then you have an SMS, then the front desk, task assignment, you book the appointment, you do an SMS and email confirmation, and then 24 hours before the appointment, and then 2 hours before the appointment, and then they either show or don't show, and you can rebook people, and then this has this whole booking flow, right? Now, the interesting thing about Claude, this is something that commonly happens if you're using it, is it has these multiple flows, right? It wrote out speed to lead, appointment booking, no-show, lead nurture, but it's spitting out all this information just randomly over top, right? So you have to kind of play with it a little bit to make this work because obviously this is, just messy on the screen, just a lot of stuff going on. But this is basically how you can map out the business in a really clean way. And because this is like an interactive type flow chart that it's building you, what a lot of times you need to do is you need to put this into a PDF so it's more easily readable. Like, see how it's kind of cutting off now? It's not feeding everything in here properly. It's kind of like messed up, right? And it shows all the flows. You'd say, please put this into a PDF for me. Now, one of the things that's interesting about the PDF conversion, so when you go from these digital kind of like JSON or Python type flowcharts, these are all like interactive and sort of messy, right? You can actually download the file and save it. You can also save artifacts, right? So artifacts are when you tell Claude, this is something that's important. I want you to store this so we can recall this later, kind of like a memory in ChatGPT. You can also copy this, and then you can also download the file, but the file type here is going to be something super crazy. So just a heads up on that. So what ends up happening is I'm going to say, okay, please build this in a PDF. It's going to use Report Lab. So Report Lab is one of the tools that Claude uses to build visualization. So you can see it running through all this actual programmatic language. But what it's going to do is it's going to spit out an actual PDF, and that PDF is going to be in the Report Lab kind of setup. And that's going to allow you to visualize the data. Now, keep in mind that this interactive type stuff, which again is not great, right? Because one, it's not sitting properly, but two, it's just not really good. This is not very helpful because you can't send this to somebody unless they have Claude. So it's kind of like ChatGPT, right? If you have a great ChatGPT conversation, what happens is you can basically send that ChatGPT to somebody else and they can open it. Same with Claude. You can take the whole conversation here and you can send it to them. That works as well. But a lot of people who don't, haven't kind of caught up to speed with this, they're going to want a PDF export, right? And so I always try to take everything that we do, put it into a PDF skill of some type, and use Report Lab to kind of spit it out. Now, the interesting thing is if you tax Claude too much or you do too many different things at the same time, it will actually have a very hard time spitting this kind of information out. But in general, I found that if you just have one thing running, you're going to be in a good spot. Also, keep in mind, we were talking about this a little bit before. We're in Sonnet right now, right? And you can't switch between models internally without starting a new chat. So this is kind of an interesting thing when you're doing prompt engineering is you can't just go to Opus or you can't just go to Haiku. You have to actually start a whole new chat when that happens. So my recommendation is, when you're doing something, make sure you select the right component ahead of time. Sonnet's going to work for most things, and you don't need extended thinking for pretty much anything. You can just do normal, level thinking, and you should be in a good spot. So now we have this like two-pane view, right? And this two-pane view is on the left is all the prompt engineering that we did, and on the right's like the output, right? So Go High Level workflow system, and it's taken. The layout might be a little messed up, but it's taking these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 components, and it's put these 8 components into different parts of the sheet. So it has this legend, right? So trigger an entry point, which is how all the automations start. There's an action step, a decision or wait step, and then a re-engagement or alert step, okay? The cool thing is about Claude is it thinks ahead and says, you should start with flows 1, 2, and 6. They're going to have the best results. So not only is it telling you, okay, here's all the flows you need, and here's all the things that could be improved, but here's the priority. So build 1, 2, and 6. Let's look at 1, 2, and 6. So 1 is the speed to lead, right? Paid ads comes in, SMS and email happens, notify the front desk, and then the task gets assigned, right? Like that's an assignment to the internal team member. Then the appointment booking nature. So once the appointment's booked, we want to SMS and email them, remind them a day before, remind them 2 hours before, and make sure that they show up. If we look at number 6, this is the referral process, which is really important, right? So appointment confirmed, wait 24 hours, SMS Google review, and then referral ask. Big, big, big deal, right? To do this kind of stuff. So from a priority standpoint, it's telling us to build those. This is really helpful. You can also hit download here. You can always refresh as well. So when you do a new prompt, sometimes it's not going to feed everything over here, but you can refresh it. So now that we've done the prompt engineering to ask it what we need to do for the business, right? Remember, we're saying we're running a marketing company. I have Go High Level. Here's my service. Tell me the types of workflows that make sense. Now what we want to do is say, please give me the sales copy for SMS and email for workflow 1. Terrible typing, but so here's where it gets really interesting, right? It's going to say, hi, first name, this is the clinic name, we just got your request. So it's keeping all of this information really tight. It's automatically thinking ahead and doing A2P compliance, which is crazy that it already knows that. And then it's telling you, hey, keep it under 160 characters because that's going to not cut off the text, right? Because SMS has a certain amount. Then it's got this email. It's going to fire at the same time, same kind of copy. and then has this internal notification that's going to be very helpful for what's going on here. And so then you have some notes, right? Doesn't mention the service or treatment. This is pretty good because it's just nurturing the lead. You don't know exactly what they need, right? So then we can say, okay, please inline do the next 5 workflows, or sorry, next 7 workflows. So let's just see what it does. Right, so appointment 2. If you look over here, this is the appointment booked workflow. So it puts out all the copy. It puts all the variables in here. It has the A2P compliance for stopped and opt out. It tells you the dates and times that you need to send it on. For the third flow, for no-shows, it gives you all the copy that's associated with this, right? And then number 4, it's giving you all this information, right? So social proof, right? Education, emails, SMS. It's doing the whole workflow. It's writing you the copy and telling you when you should actually send them. And is it high urgency or low urgency? That's actually very important too, because if you're not a marketing expert, you're going to have a hard time with it. Then it's got this pipeline stage. So it's going to tell you, here's all the stages: new lead, attempted to contact, consultation, showed, no show. That's the flow that it recommends for the business. That's probably plenty for a med spa. Then we come to flow number 6 here. This is the post-visit reviews. This is like trying to get a good review from somebody. It says fires 24 hours after, 3 days after, and then, it has all the copy associated with it. And then the reactivation campaign, it's got all the dates and times in the copy. And then the last one for the internal reports. So the point of this whole exercise, or showing you guys this is something that you can either pay thousands of dollars a month to have somebody else build for you, or if you get really good with Claude, you can actually build all the infrastructure for a business with Claude, right? And you can have the visualization if you're a visual person, you can have the copy if you're a copy person, you can blend these two things together in a way that's intelligent long term. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have any other questions, let me know. But I'll just try to keep putting out content of things that make sense that Claude can do, and hopefully this helps somebody. Thanks so much.